Welcome to the show. And for what you done, we got that info for you. Touchdown on that plane, and for anything. More than just a podcast for you.
Welcome to another edition of the 10-4 YouTube show. I'm your host, Jamesetta Cleveland, and in keeping with our theme for 2021, we're going to do another show on recruiting. And today, we're going to talk about track and field. So joining me today are my panelists, Leslye Williams, Leslye Young, Radir Annoor, and Nicole Maynard. I'll let everyone introduce themselves and then we'll jump right in with the questions for the show.
I'll go first. Greetings. My name is Leslye Williams. I'm a former Tiger Bell, as you world-renowned Tiger Bell. I attended Tennessee State from 2012 through 2016. I graduated and I'm now teaching as well as coaching middle school athletes track and field.
Welcome.
Hello, I'm Radir Annoor. I'm a former collegiate football player at Tennessee Tech University. I also have an extensive background in track and field. I ran for 12 years, and that pretty much created the foundation of my football success. After my years at Tennessee Tech, since then I've gone on to become a sports performance trainer, training athletes from the youth level all the way through the professional level.
What do you
Good morning.
Toot your horn a little bit. What do you specialize in?
What do I specialize in?
Yes.
Speed training.
Speed training. I mean, the show is about track, right? Let them know. Let them know. He specializes in speed training. All right, Nicole, I'm sorry. I think I cut you off.
No, you're fine. Good morning. My name is Nicole Maynard. I'm a former D1 athlete myself. I attended Vanderbilt University on a track and field cross-country scholarship. And I have 3 kids now, and I'm also a volunteer assistant track coach for a summer youth program.
Welcome.
And my name is Leslye Young. I'm Nicole Maynard's twin sister. I ran track at Central State, 2 years, extensive track, age 6 all the way to 19. 4 kids from Youngstown, Ohio, and came down here following my twin. So that's where I'm at.
Well, welcome. So everybody has an extensive background in track and field. And so we'll dive right in. The first question, how is track and field recruiting different from other sports?
I'll start off. I feel like track and field recruiting is different from most sports in that it's, number one, it's a lot more straightforward. In comparison to football, obviously that's what I did. So in football, let's say you have great numbers, great stats, you have accolades, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that the top-notch schools, the Alabamas, the LSUs of the world will recruit you, because there's other factors that go along into that. Whereas track, if you're the top of the top as far as your times, your metrics and whatnot, a lot of times you're going to get offers and interest from big schools. So I think that's straightforward from the aspect that your times will get you in the door to scholarships and to big time programs. Secondly, it's more of an international platform. So you're not only up against people in the United States, but you have people in Jamaica, people in Japan, people all over the country that want to come to the United States for an education and to compete collegiately as well. So it's a lot more competitive in that it does entail international aspects as well.
Okay.
And I also think it's different from the standpoint that track is more so an individual sport, regardless of the school you go to, the size of the school. Again, no one can deny your performance, your times. There's truth there, especially when you think about fully automatic timing And then from a track standpoint, I feel like you have athletes that can participate in multiple events, whereas with other sports, it's more focused. And with track, you may have a sprinter that's also a great, long jumper, triple jumper, or hurdler. And even for a distance runner, you may have a middle distance runner that can also score points for your cross country team, indoor and outdoor season. So I think, that's different as well when it comes to individual track and field athletes.
Oh, that's really good. That's a really good call out. Leslye, you want to chime in?
I also want to say, just agreeing with Nicole, is the one other thing too, is with the recruiting process of looking at coaches, definitely looking at to see with you coming in, how many points can you bring for the team? If it's going to be something that, what I'm saying, with you, like I did the 800, 400, especially the 400, but then someone that's a heptathlete, you can bring them in, that they'll have their points on that side. And then also too, after their events are ended, after those 2 days, they can still do the individual points. So it's really kind of too, like, looking at it like, what is going to be your big money maker to bring in? Like what points? Like that's how coaches looking to recruit to see, what's going to be my return on my investment initially when they're recruiting. So you might be in a situation that one school might say, hey, I want you here, but then the other school is looking, but I'm only going to give you 20%. But then another school to look to see, okay, I'll have additional points. Just that recruiting process, I would say that.
So I'm going to clarify. I'm going to ask a clarifying question for our listeners who are maybe new to track and field or don't know track and field. So what do you mean when you say points?
Basically, what points can the team bring? So like basically when you're in an invitational, or just even like the national, who has the most points is determined to be the champion. Or so it's basically on, you get 10 points for first place, you get 8 points for second, you know what I'm saying? So just breaking down all those points. So you basically, recruiting wise, as coaches looking at, hey, who can bring into advance for us to have the most points to win.
Okay, so I'm gonna clarify, because this is different from every other sport in that what I'm hearing you guys say is you compete in an individual event in track and field, and as an individual you score a certain amount of points for yourself based on each event, and those points roll up to a team total, and the team with the most points wins the actual invitational or the track meet. So a college coach, what they're looking for is they're looking to see, will this particular individual place top 3 or top however many finishes will bring in points, and how can I fit them into my system? Maybe the place that they're going to bring me the most points might be the triple jump. Maybe it might be the 100. Now that's very different. We've done football, soccer, baseball, basketball, and track is the first sport where I've actually heard the athletes say, hey, I run an event, that event generates a certain amount of points. A coach can look at my individual times and actually make a projection on how many points I will actually earn for my collegiate team. So there's a real return on investment, not like football where I don't even know how many points, if any, this person will score for me. It's like, okay, these are his or her times. Those times translate, because there's a clear framework. If you ran a 10-5, where that 10-5 will go. So that's very different. Parents, if you are listening, and I know that you are, we got to call out, like, first question, think about when your child runs an event or when they participate in a field event, how many points are they scoring as an individual, and how many points could they possibly bring to a college track team? That's a real great way to figure out your child's potential value. Because I'm going to say that the people that can get the most points in the college world are going to be the people that get the scholarship offers.
When I was getting recruited, a lot of my recruiters were telling me my potential points that I could have gotten with my times as a high schooler. So coming in, I already knew if, like, I was going into the OVC, I already knew going into the OVC where my times ranked going in before I even ran my freshman year.
Ooh, that's good. That's very objective. This is the first objective sport. Like, none of the other sports are objective in that way, because, like, just because you score a certain amount of points in basketball in high school, that doesn't even mean that you're going to have that opportunity to score the exact same amount of points in college. And just because you are used a certain way in high school and football doesn't mean that they're going to use you the exact same way when you
Right.
get to college.
Yeah.
So this is really good. I had not thought of that. I will note as well, parents who are listening to the show and athletes who listen to the show, the international aspect that was mentioned here. I talked to my parents about knowing their competition and just understand that you don't only want to, based on what you guys are telling me, they don't only need to be looking at times in the United States. They need to go outside and be aware of what are the times in Jamaica, what are the times in Germany, what are the times in Japan and other parts of the world, because those people are also competing for scholarships here in the United States too. Oh, that's good. That's worth the price of admission right there. So I'll move us along and I'll ask this question. Where does the business of track and field recruiting get done? In basketball, they say it's AAU among other places, but where does the real business of recruiting get done in the track world?
This is Nicole, and I'll start off. In my opinion, I think it depends. I think it depends on the school you attend, whether your high school, even city or state, has a well-known track program. In addition to that, I think you have opportunities with AAU and also USA track and field. So there's multiple opportunities for our students to get recruited. I think from a business standpoint, I also think it depends on your coaches, relationships, networking. Who do your coaches know? And, you know, when I think about AAU, especially nationals or USATF nationals, you do have a lot of college coaches that attend those meets. So if you don't have that visibility, let's just say during your high school track season, I feel like there's still that opportunity at the national level when you attend nationals, just to have that exposure, just to get your name out there as well. And that's one thing I love about track, because since it's not a team sport, you have additional opportunities to be seen outside of, you know, playing basketball or football when that just occurs, you know, during the high school season.
Okay. So when you mention nationals, like, where does nationals take place for track, or what does that look like for people who are not familiar with the track world?
Okay, for people not familiar with the track world, the location, I guess, rotates annually. Some years you may travel to Texas, California, Florida, Virginia, you know, North Carolina. So Florida as well. I think I just mentioned that. But from that standpoint, it's qualifying rounds where you have your districts and a certain number, at least that place, like in the top 8, top 16, make it to your regionals. And with regionals, you know, you're qualifying or competing against other athletes that are in your region or area, various states like Alabama, you know, Tennessee, Kentucky maybe. And then from there, you know, the top athletes from that region, top 4 usually, then qualify for nationals. And then at nationals, you're competing against everyone, you know, across the country. And usually they'll say that's like the creme de la creme of, you know, the athletes. And your goal usually every year is to qualify for nationals, because you're competing against the best. And when you think about scholarships, you are competing against the best. It's not just your local association or your state. You're competing for scholarships against other athletes, you know, across the country. And like Radir said, even, you know, across the world as well. So those are things I think, you know, you need to be mindful of when you talk about recruiting and just having that exposure as well. And I think with track and field, how it has grown
over the years, there's, multiple opportunities. Formerly you had the New Balance, indoor and outdoor nationals for high school athletes. That's another area or opportunity to be seen. In addition to your state track meet and, AAU and USATF.
Got it. That's really good. Who else wants to chime in?
I would say just to add on to what Mr. Cole said. I think just going to like the recruiting side from the perspective of the college coach. Obviously, spring is the time of the track season. So while high school track is going on, the college season is also going on as well. So as you could imagine, college coaches' hands are full as far as not being able to recruit at that time. So I feel like their hot time for recruiting is the summer. So I've seen college coaches on the AAU circuit, on the USATF circuit, recruiting at the nationals, whereas I don't really see much of that going on throughout the school system. And I think that's probably because of the calendars kind of conflicting and whatnot. So I think AAU is probably predominantly where the business side of it goes down as far as exposure and recruiting for college.
Got it.
And I think right now with the pandemic going on, your best bet to get the exposure that you're wanting is the summer. Because right now it's all up in the air on whether or not they're even going to have a track season as far as the school system. So your best bet right now to get that exposure and to lock in that scholarship. Because for me, I wanted to lock in my scholarship. My recruiters, they could saw what I could do, but I wanted to show them exactly what it is why I am the reason why they're recruiting me. So I wanted to show them what I could do. And my best times were in the summer. And that's when I reached my peak. So that when I hit the nationals, and then most of those times, a lot of those athletes, you're going to see them again in college.
Okay.
So it was very cool to like run in nationals and then see them again in my freshman year. So lock in that time and try to run in the summer.
Okay. So I'm gonna insert a little bit, and then you guys can tell me if I'm not clarifying correctly. So I'm kind of hearing a couple of things that's different for track. One is there's 2 seasons. There's an indoor season and there's an outdoor season. And those seasons are going on at the same time high school athletes are actually running for school. So when you're running club, I think that's the right word, club track and field in the summer, it really gives a coach an opportunity to actually see you, because their season is, I think indoor starts before, it's kind of like winter time. So they've been in season for a very long time. So they're not able to really see you while you're running in high school. It's striking to me that the track experience for the club kids, even at a very, very young age, it mimics the collegiate experience. So if your child is running track as a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 16-year-old, the way that the track season is structured in terms of there's qualifying rounds, there's travel, you go up, you have to make it to nationals. They're going to be very comfortable with competition when they get to college because it's nothing different. Whereas with football, you might leave the city if you're lucky, but you're definitely not, unless you're one of those premier programs that has a ton of money like an IMG or a DeMatha, you're not going all around the country to play football. And not only that, not all football has playoffs, or which would, for me, the playoffs is like the equivalent to the qualifying rounds in track. So track is very real, even at the younger levels, which is very different from, we've done this show, we've done recruiting specifically January and now into February. And this is the one sport, not just saying this because y'all are track people, but it's the one sport where I'm listening to you talk, and I'm hoping parents are picking this up, that it translates exactly the same at the collegiate level. It's one of the few sports that does translate exactly the same, because football does not. Not at all. And there are other sports that don't translate the same way either. So I had to put my little preaching to the choir. Parents, I hope you're taking note. And back to the question: where does the business of track and field recruiting get done? Leslye, do you want to weigh in at all?
I would just definitely agree, like on the business part of it. Like everyone else was saying, like New Balance was always something, an opportunity to recruit. And that's basically the end of I would say beginning of June, is basically the New Balance Nationals for the top high school. You have your different levels, like you have freshman class, then you have, I think, sub elite, then it's the third of elite. Of you running, for you to even participate, you have to meet a qualifying time. And that's, like I said, it's after basically the NCAA national. So that time that you have a lot of coaches that are there to actually witness, starting the recruitment process. So, putting your name down, getting your times together to even be able to be invited to, to participate in New Balance is a great opportunity, I would say. But yeah, definitely on the business side, Newbie is a premier track meet to attend, versus also to USTF and AAU. But yeah, it's definitely the summertime track, indoor. That's,
I'm going to point out to my parents, this is our 6th show on recruiting, and the business of recruiting does not get done on social media. I want you parents listening to the show. This is the 6th show about recruiting, and no sport, not one, has said that the business of recruiting gets done on social media. So I want you to listen to this show and please let it solidify in your mind that just because a coach follows you on social media does not mean that they're entertaining you, doesn't mean that you're high on their board, doesn't even mean that they want to offer you in any way, shape, or form or fashion. Social media is an avenue to get visibility, but it is not where recruiting is done. So don't get excited just because someone followed you. And even if they mention you, don't get excited. Know that you still have to put in the work. And I love that you guys were able to give my listeners a specific goal to shoot for. Shoot for the New Balance Invitational. Shoot for nationals. That's awesome, because even if your kid is 8, okay, if they say that they want to run in college, here's some things that we need to shoot for as a barometer of where our talent lies. That's fabulous. That's very, very good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.